whenever, wherever you are. I hope this finds you well. I am Shaggy. I am Philalutea. I have about 30% of my battery left without getting my backpack out and finding my external battery, which I may or may not do. And I just watched a video that annoyed me. I have ticks climbing around the gaping hole in my tent. I need to take this shirt off. It's going to get too warm, but whatever. And I just watched a video about, yes, I see the alfalfa thing and I'm just going to try to fight through it. I just watched a video about how democracy might be mathematically impossible, and it's like it's not that it might be mathematically impossible, it's that it's so improbable that using direct democracy in order to make any kind of decision at any level of complexity is impossible. You cannot keep up with the decisions that you have to make if you're casting votes for every single one. Look what happens every time a district or a state or a city does a proposition vote where it goes directly to the people. We are not a democracy. We are a representative democracy in name alone. We are definitely a republic, and we are for sure now that Citizens United versus FEC has become the norm, has been the norm for so long that nobody remembers it happened. Only people like me who were paying attention and who cared and thought that things matter and who are considered now conspiracy theorists and whack jobs. But because money equals free speech has been the norm, not just in campaign finance, but just the way that corporations exist, the way that they express themselves for so long, it's just the way things are. You understand what I'm saying? Probably not. I probably didn't circle all the way back around to make my point. And that's fine. It's warm in here, and I'm thinking about a lot of different things because the point is that we're a plutocracy. I took my glove off to piss this morning and didn't take the other one off. Anyway, we're a plutocracy. We are not a democracy, and the Republican nature of our government is largely unimportant. If we're going to talk about the United States, your vote is it's largely representative anymore. It's been largely representative for a long, long time, but since Citizens United, it doesn't matter if you vote. It doesn't matter who votes. Like I had a dream last night even that the Democrats won again. Hello Yusuf and hello Maria Shorts. It's wow, there are six of you all of a sudden. I was talking about how your vote doesn't matter, but you still need to do it. Um, Hi, hello everyone. It's wow, 15 of you. Hello. It's suddenly very great to see all of you. I was talking about how your vote doesn't matter, but you need to do it, and now there are 15 people here, and I'm going to look like a whack job uh, from that segue. So hello, it's great to see all of you. Yeah, suddenly a lot of people. Hello, John Hayes. Hello, Maria Shorts. Wow is very much right. Hello, Geo the bio, Geo the bio. Thank you for the sub, Geo. Your dog died from cancer. That sucks, John. I'm sorry to hear that, man. I had a cat die from cancer, and it was just the absolute worst. She got face cancer. I'm so sorry to hear that. You had a dream about eating a frog and starting World War III. I had a dream that Joe Biden was president again. So, weird dreams happen. Thank you for sharing that with me, actually, German fan. That's an anxiety dream that we could talk about. Eating frog, having a frog in your throat is it's a metaphor for having something that you want to say, and then obviously World War III is a major catastrophe. So that's a big dream. You've got stuff going on in your head, whether you've got stuff going on in your life. You got a new dog? I'm glad to hear that, John. I'm sorry that you lost the other. Did you get the same kind of breed? Are you doing all right, German? You feeling good? German fan. Thank you for the likes, by the way. Not the same breed? Does breed matter to you, John? Are you a breed guy? Are you a dog guy? Do you know and care? I've dated a lot of dog girls, so I might have a weird perspective as far as how you react to a tragedy like losing a buddy to cancer. Well, hey, it's really good to see you. We've dwindled down to five, and it's great to that I've retained the four of you. Thank you for being here. Oh, he's 2 years old. You adopted a rescue? This for the future audience or for anybody who watches this all the way through. Um, that's cool that you went and got a rescue. I bet that helped your heart a little bit. Um, I'm glad that that helped heal your heart, John. I'm really sorry. Cancer, especially to a friend like a pet, is really hard. Um, Losing my Vader was one of the most difficult moments of my life, and I'm really sorry to hear that, Maria. I did read that about your cat and your baby cats. That is very sad. One of the things that I kind of went through, not kind of went through, one of the things I went through early in my homelessness is I lost a cat. It's cool that you've got a pet squirrel. I like squirrels. There are rabbits and deer in the woods here outside my tent that follow me around and watch me. I'm glad that that helped your heart, John. I'm sorry that your heart went through that, but I'm glad you were able to find a new friend, and I'm glad you were able to help a young, like 2 years old isn't young for a dog. I'm glad you were able to find somebody that you were able to help like that. That's really cool. But this is kind of where I was talking about, like, why we can't be a democracy is we're all citizens. I am single, Maria. Thank you for asking. I'm also 37 and I live in a tent. Um, and I'm happy with not having a job. So confusing. Um, but the part of the reason we can't be a democracy is this, like personal tragedies like this. You can't just put down what you're dealing with your dog or what you're dealing with your mom or what you're dealing with an uncle or whatever, what you're dealing with at work to go and vote on silly props that may or may not have to do with anything, that may be just petty politics. And so humans figured out the pettiness of politics pretty quickly everywhere, all over the world. Actually, around the time that Periclean Athens was falling apart to petty politics. And so thank all of those people, all 15 of those people. I live alone, Maria. I live in a tent in the woods just on the other side of a shopping center. So I live behind a strip mall in the woods. My analytics are telling me that it's bouncing in and out, whether people are with me. So every time she goes to type, it might be telling me that there are zero people. So I'm caught in a I don't exactly know what to do because she's taking an interest in me. Thank you for taking an interest, Maria. Um, but that's also not exactly what I want to talk about. But I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to side trail. I'm not really. I just kind of wanted to work through, like, why democracy, why the representative style that we use works, and why we use it is because we have more than. Oh, okay. Are you in a similar situation, Maria? Am I understanding that correctly? You don't have to answer that question if you don't want to, obviously. But I'm not looking to be rescued either. Oh, no, I don't have a house. No. I am technically homeless. Yeah. I and U are similar places on the keyboard, I think. Are I, U, and O all right there together? Yeah, okay, anyway. Thank you for stopping in. I see there are four of you. Thank you for being here. I'm kind of going in and out of addressing the passersby and the people in the comments and kind of talking about why our government is the way it is. You can absolutely go to my channel. I do shorts and I do long forms. I used to do a lot more long forms where I kind of talk like I've been kind of working at talking, but just to myself. I used to call them talking to myself. But you can absolutely go to my channel. I'm active every day. I've actually been active every day for about a year and a half now. It's getting warm in here, but I don't want to take this. I don't want to take this hoodie off because I can see about 8 ticks. So if I can see them, they're probably going to start falling on me eventually. But yeah, Athens, Plato even talks about it, and so you don't need to have read Plato, but I've read Plato, and in Socrates' Apology, he actually Plato puts in Socrates' mouth an accusation against the Athenian people that because of the way that democracy was structured, once they made a decision, they had to cast another vote to cancel the decision, right? They didn't have vetoes, they didn't have checks and balances of power, they didn't have separate branches of government. And so I don't know the exact story off the top of my head, exactly how it went, but the Athenian people decided that they were going to punish another people in the Athenian League, which was effectively at that point the Athenian Empire. They were going to punish them with eradication. They were going to come in, they were going to kill everybody. And so the whatever the moral of the story, whatever the course of the historical event, because by the time we're talking about Plato and Socrates, we're talking about historical events. um, what happened is the city voted on this, sent the Navy, sent the Marines out, and then had a stroke of guilty conscience and voted to change their minds. But by the time they sent the messengers to catch up, this becomes kind of an outer space story, right? So if you decide that you're going to attack somebody in outer space in our language, right, it takes time for the message to reach them again, right? And so it took time for the message to reach them, and by the time the message reached the Navy, they had already committed atrocities against this people who it turns out were innocent of the crimes levied against them. So this is why we don't have democracy. Even Socrates, even Plato, the greatest thinkers in the West were like, democracy is a dead end. It leads to bad things. Socrates, in a lot of ways, if you really dive into philosophy as a worldview, yeah, Maria, it's actually shocking. It was shocking to the people of Athens what they had just done. It was an atrocity in history, and it's recorded in history. Um, with the guilt associated, that there are plays, there are songs. Plato wrote about it, other philosophers wrote about it. Socrates is recorded having talked about it at his trial, right? So Socrates, philosopher, you could think of it like Jesus. If Jesus had gotten to speak to the Jewish people at when Pilate presented him, or Barabbas, if you remove Barabbas and you just have Jesus speak to the people, and then they were allowed to vote what to do with him, that's what happened to Socrates. This is why it didn't happen to Jesus. Jesus is hundreds of years later. And anyway, the Jewish people didn't have a democratic Jewish system like the Athenian people did. But by Jesus's day, they were post-Hellenic because they were Roman. You understand what I'm saying? The Hellenic period had happened. They could have adopted a democratic style, but the Hellenes didn't use a democratic style after Alexander, because Alexander wasn't Athenian. And a lot of the reason Alexander came into power was because the Athenian democracy allowed the people of Athens to commit atrocities to their empire. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is the reason we're not democratic. Great thinkers in history, every generation's great thinker looks at democracy, goes to the source of democracy, reads what the democratic Athens actually had to say about what their democracy did, and went, okay, well, we're not going to do that. Whatever we do, we're not going to do that. And so the founding American, the American forefathers is what we call them, but the founding American population, not just the people that sat down and did the thing, but the people that voted them into power. You got to remember that they were voted into power as representatives in a representative democracy, a representative democratic republic as it was forming. But it's different because the Viking peoples and the Celtic peoples and the Breton peoples, Breton, Breton peoples, they had a kind of democracy where the upper echelon of society, the landowners, the people who had a stake in. I understand that, Maria. I'm trying to be as gentle as possible with these stories. So thank you for sticking with me. And I'm not feeding you lies either. I'm trying to be very concise and engaging with the historical content. Um, the Viking peoples and the medieval British and what is modern French, but these peoples in the early medieval periods, before their kingdoms, right, before their monarchies really solidified, what they had was a structure where the landowners and the people who made a lot of money for the community, they got to vote who was king. And so that tradition got supplanted into the North American colonies, and that's how our democracy works. And we were very deliberate in it when we came to the colonies. I say we because I'm an American and those are my ancestors, because I don't know who my great grandparents were. So I just claim all of the ancestry of the North American continent as belonging to me. And so what they did is they settled here with these ideas that worked, the ideas from the Magna Carta and from the Danelaw that had worked in England for centuries, that no matter who was king, allowed trade to flourish. If you're a colony and you understand yourself as a colony in the traditional sense of a colony, not in the modern post-Marxist tradition of colonialism, you understand yourself as a trading group of people who live in a foreign place to trade that people's goods back to the homeland, and the homeland trades the homeland's goods to them that they need to sell the excess for the foreign land's goods to sell back. It's a closed network it's a closed loop trading network is what colonies are. I get into arguments with Gemini, and modern historians and modern thinkers don't want this. They don't want to talk about this style because Marxism is so endemic and it's so easy to think about because it's so wrong. And so don't trust me on that. Just research it for yourself. My point is that the Jewish diaspora worked in that manner, and that my ex-wife worked on research for her master's to show that it was actually Jewish families that were able to bring money to the colonies through loans back to European Jewish families. And so if it weren't for this total interconnected marriage of very, very, very disparate and very complex societies and approaches to economics, the American colonies would have absolutely failed. And that's not just the British. The French colonies would have failed. The Spanish colonies were failing because they didn't use an economic approach. They used a vacuum approach. And so where I'm getting at with all of this, yes, thank you. Thank you for finishing this for me, Mario Edward. Mario says, and when voting first came about, you had to have land over a certain value in order to vote. That's absolutely right. They took the idea of the Danelaw and these very old pre-kingdom traditions, and they said, okay, only the people who are making a certain amount of money and who can sustain the lives of a certain number of employed people are allowed to vote, because they're the only people who have demonstrated that they know how to make good decisions for a lot of people. And so that's how our system of democracy, that's how our system of democratic republic actually developed. And it's a good idea. And I know it's a good idea, no matter what your university education, no matter what your high school, or no matter what your intuition wants to tell you. I know not necessarily restricting who gets to vote isn't what I'm talking about, but the concept of why we vote, and that voting is about demonstrating that you know how to make good decisions for yourself. I know that's a good idea because it worked for 200 years. That's longer than Rome was able to remain a republic. That's longer than Persia was able to remain an empire. Like 200 years in the span of historical time is an incredibly long amount of time to be a cohesive one thing, a cohesive unit. And the United States was a cohesive unit until 2016. From 1776 to 2016 is a really long time. So something was working. That's all I'm trying to say. That's really my rant, is that the Republican, the Democratic stuff, the cohesion that we used to have, it cohered through a lot of bad shit. A lot of racism, and a lot of keeping people from being able to prosper. And I saw my analytics react, but it worked. And so it could work again, is all I'm trying to say. It doesn't have to have all of this baked in racism, and it doesn't have to have a baked in Anglican worldview where we think about religion and we think about hierarchy like French or like English people. We could think like citizens of the world, because the United States has frankly been a world empire since the 50s. We've owned everything but Russia and China effectively since 1950. So Americans, on a certain level, the rest of the world looks at us with this responsibility of understanding our government and understanding how their governments are supposed to work, because we installed their constitutions when they have them. And that's a lot of responsibility for the average American. And that's why our system of democracy limits the actual control that your vote has over any one politician. But that's also why allowing these corporations to have so much influence over our politicians is a major problem that I don't have a solution for, because I'm not going to try to build a court case against Citizens United versus FEC. I'm just not that sophisticated. My understanding isn't that well developed. All I know is that it used to work and it could work again. It just has to. There are things that we have to replace, because they worked for those people because those people benefited. And if we want to believe in democratic, yes, if we wanted to believe in democratic and humanist values, we have to deal with wrong turn anus 69. And I agree with him. Lobbying is one of the pitfalls of late stage capitalism. Totally. Yeah, lobbying is a I don't know what to do with it, because it's there, and I'm not working in government, and I'm not trying to work in government. I'm, and some level, I'm trying to reach people who care about their vote more than I do, because I don't even have a home. And I agree with him again here, where he says capitalism is part of what makes our country great, but lobbying and corporate interest or poisoning our politics is tough. To make a solution is tough. Yeah, I'm not here to say I've got answers. I'm here to say that maybe between the two of us we could come up with an answer that I could talk about, but it wouldn't be the answer, because I'm not going to try to lobby for it. And lobbying has made it's done a really good job of taking that colonialism idea and making a closed circuit between the groups with the money and the power and the groups that control decision making. And so they stuck themselves right in the middle, and there's no way to replace them without being them first. And I don't have an answer for that. All I know is it's not hopeless. It's not hopeless. Well, the immediate downside to making things illegal is that people go to prison for crimes that they didn't commit. So I don't know that there would be like a big obvious downside, because if like what you want to do is you want to have a popular political movement, sort of like a grassroots, or even an AfroTurf, like the Tea Party movement, and you want to go, okay, well, this is illegal now. it doesn't stay illegal for very long, or you have to create security networks in order to keep it illegal. And so then you just the people who were lobbying to make certain things illegal, like weed, they just work toward lobbying illegally to make lobbying legal again, like um, sort of like how the let's call it reforms, the reformations that allowed the Great Depression to not happen again until 2008. Uh, 2008 was able to happen. The market crash in 2008 was able to happen because those reformations were slowly cut out and made legal again. Things that were illegal were made legal again. And so I don't know if what you want to do is make it illegal, because I think what you get is you get a groundswell of support, and then it becomes like drunk driving, and it gets in the way, and people realize that, oh well, maybe lobbying, once they hit the middle class, or they hit small business owner that's starting the franchise, they realize that, oh, maybe lobbying would have been better for me to actually to get better benefits for my employees or whatever. Like, even good people will then find themselves stymied using the mechanics that are available. I think that trying to limit the amount of money at one time was a good idea that was implemented poorly. I think what we want to do is we just want to make it, if lobbying is the thing, if lobbying is the thing, what we want to do is we want to make gathering lots of money to then lobby for good things normal. So like instead of doing like this is going to offend somebody, but it was the first thing I could think of. Instead of doing like cancer awareness, the Susan G. Komen, the pink ribbon thing, and it's just for science, right? And it's just for awareness. What you actually do is like a lobby to create a federal grant for a specific cancer research, and then you get that money, you get that grant, and then you get this money, and you get this grant, and you get this money, and you get this grant. I think that would be more effective if we use the fundraising that's available to us, and when I say us, I really mean Democrats, but use the fundraising that's available to liberals, and uh, use it for the good, to actually accomplish the things that they care about. I don't know how one would go about doing that, because those aren't my skill sets, but I think that like I think a lot about circa 2012. There were a lot of communist profit sharing efforts in restaurants, and the reasons that they didn't work is that, a, it takes 3 years to generate a profit in a restaurant, and no 18-year-old or no 23-year-old is thinking 3 years in the head, or 3 years ahead, with a minimum wage job that actually only pays in profit. And so that's why tip sharing really struggles in restaurants. You turn people over like crazy, because you have to come into the environment with a forward thinking, long-term, team-oriented worldview. And so I think if we were going to really tackle lobbying, the first thing that we would have to do is we would have to get kids inculcated in long-term, team-oriented thinking from a very young age. And if you watch professional sports, and I only watch the NFL, but if I know that there's a scandals, too strong a word, but there's a thing right now in the NBA. I guess a guy kicked a ball at a ref, threw a ball at a ref, kind of freaked out, and then had to apologize for letting his team down. Even in professional sports, the idea of long-term team-oriented thinking is still rare. Like, the reason that people say that Tom Brady is the greatest of all time isn't because of his arm strength, it's not because of his accuracy, it's not because of his decision making, it's because of his evolution in time, of being willing to think about being 45. Thank you for the sub, Wrong Term Anus. You've got a great name. It's not it's not the least embarrassing name I've ever said, but I do enjoy your I enjoy your name, and I've enjoyed dialoguing with you. Thank you for the comment. I got embarrassed and then I forgot how to talk. That's that. Thank you, all of you for sitting here for that half hour. That's really what I wanted to do. I just wanted to get on. I wanted to say something encouraging about how democracy isn't what we have, but just because it's mathematically impossible for you to decide what's going on doesn't actually mean that it's fiduciarily or monetarily impossible for you to decide what's going on. Just because you can't have a coffee shop that's going to pay people in magic money doesn't mean that you can't take the things that really matter to you. Like I saw a woman yesterday in a hello Maria, I'm going to talk about something that I probably shouldn't. But anyway, I saw a woman in a domestic abuse shirt the other day, and I just thought if we spent less effort printing the shirts and trying to make the shirts profitable and more effort actually doing something in the community, instead of making the shirts profitable and making the printing of the shirts profitable and then making different versions of the shirts profitable, if we really looked at Ford's model, if we really appreciated the Model T for what it was and why it was profitable and why it made Ford what it was, and we used, for example, selling shirts to build a huge amount of money that we can then go and lobby for better shelters. Instead of giving the money directly to a shelter, give the money to somebody in the government who will then make the government grant better shelters, because the government has infinite money. We can't generate infinite money. You are never, I am never, when I'm looking at me when I say this, I'm being honest with myself. I don't know you. You may. You may have access to Bill Gates. I will never influence Jeff Bezos to hand me all the money in the universe and let me just reorganize poor people's lives so they can be happy, healthy, and comfortable, and thus productive. What he wants is for them to be productive, so he beats them with billy clubs. That's not the way to make us productive. I'm very poor. I was raised very poor. I worked for a very long time. The reason I choose homelessness is because I want to do this. And I can't do this if I'm angry at a corporation, a specific corporation. I see every time I do that, my analytics, it's probably my connection to the internet popping in and out. But every time I say something deeply honest and personal like that, my analytics go to zero, no matter how many people I have. It's hilarious to me. My point is, thank you for letting me talk about this in a disjointed way. Thank you for letting me get there. Thank you for helping me get there. Many of you finished my thoughts for me, which is what I need and why I went live. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here. I'm embarrassed now, and I want to run and hide. So thank you, and I'm going to go dive into a book or a podcast or something. Thank you for being here, deeply, sincerely, from the bottom of my heart. I'll be back. This was a great deal of fun for me. Thank you, really.